Hello, everyone. Rob Guest from football.london here, and welcome to the latest episode of Gold and Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. Joining me as ever, it's Alistair Gold. Ali, you well?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Hope you are well too. Another victory to talk about. Another one of those victories where we say they got there in the end, which feels like kind of the tale of this season so far, which isn't the worst thing as long as you do actually get there in the end. But yeah, Spurs back in the top four, game in hand as well. Some very tough fixtures to come, but at least they're heading in the right direction. And kind of looking at some parallels to last season, they come out quite favourably, Spurs, and a lot of kind of the stats and the numbers that they're posting as well. So progress being made.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag in the end on Sunday evening at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Spurs running out 3-1 winners, but didn't have it all their own way, especially towards the end of the first half when they went in level. Spurs went ahead courtesy of Murillo's own goal. Chris Wood equalised about 12 minutes later, and then goals from Mickey van der Ven and Pedro Porro won the game for Spurs. As you say, important win, puts them into the top four, level on points with Villa, but have a better goal difference. And crucially, that game in hand, what could have a major say on who finishes fourth come the end of the term. So you were at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday. What did you make of the game?
I was just excited for the Nuno derby, quite frankly, especially after being an absolute muppet 2 days before in the press conference and managing to call Ange Nuno. I don't know how I managed that. Seriously. I mean, we spoke about it years back when, like, after 5.5 years of Mauricio Pochettino, I was just ready to call Jose Mourinho Mauricio at some point. Because what we do is often, before we ask a question in a press conference, we'll go like, "Hi Mauricio" or "Hi Ange" and all this sort of stuff. It's a silly little thing, but it just kind of lets him know almost it's us. We're going to ask the question next to look over in our direction. And yeah, I've managed to not do it in whatever it is, 8 years or so of covering Spurs, and then end up thinking, I'm going to ask a question about Nuno. I'm going to ask a question about Nuno. And then it's like, Alistair, your turn. I went, "Hi, Nuno." It's like, oh, it's Ange. It's not Nuno. What a muppet. So yeah, we actually had the real Nuno yesterday, who I did actually ask a question of. I didn't call him Ange, but it was an interesting game because Spurs did start really well. And obviously, as soon as Werner forced an own goal, you're a bit like, brilliant, here we go. First half goal at that stadium in 2024 as well. So, they're kind of on the roll. The performance looked like it was building. Brennan Johnson had a big chance. Werner put him in. Obviously, it was a difficult chance, but the keeper saved well, reaction save. And you're thinking, this is only going to go one way. And it's almost inexplicably, Spurs just decided, yeah, it's too easy. It's too easy for us. We need to mess this up a little bit and make it more of a challenge. And lo and behold, that's what they did, which they've done so many times. And it's pretty much always the first half as well. The midfield completely lost control. And they were lucky, really, I'd say, in that little 15, 20-minute period that Forest didn't score another goal. Obviously we saw Chris Wood hit the post. Although I still think people aren't making quite enough of how well Vicario did in that moment. I thought that's a bit of his trademark, isn't it? Like leaping up after a save for a follow-up. And I thought he did that very well and kind of put Wood off to a degree that he only had a certain area to aim for. But yeah, it needed some kind of big action really from Postecoglou at the break. Came out for the second half and we could see that Bentancur and Højbjerg were both warming up there side by side. And I was like, oh, this is very, a massive change in the midfield, changing two of the three. But lo and behold, it was exactly what they needed. And this is the thing that I don't feel managers, including Postecoglou, get credit for enough. They change the game. They do. And there's this kind of, everyone picks out the points when they feel they should have moved a little bit quicker, but they don't maybe always credit them when they do. And he's had a couple now where he's made halftime changes and it's made a big difference. I think sometimes when they do that, the natural inclination is to go, well, you should have got it right in the first place. And it's like, okay, I get that. But still, you've got to react to what happens on the pitch. And I think all of us probably would have picked that midfield that started. Basuma had played really well against West Ham. Sarr coming back with his energy, and obviously Maddison kind of continuing to gradually improve, I feel, with each game. But yeah, just Basuma just fell off a cliff after about 20, 25 minutes. He was so good at the start, involved with the first goal, a real kind of 1-2 with Porro, dribble through the middle. He was looking really bright. I think he had about 3 or 4 shots himself. He kept having efforts. And then just something happened midway through, and he just completely lost the rhythm of the game. I've watched back both the goal and also the Chris Wood chance against the post. The first one, it's very much for a doggy, I think. Has made a couple of mistakes in the build-up. But I looked at Basuma. He doesn't really track the run at all. Was it Elanga? I think it was, wasn't it? Running through the middle.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I think so.
Doesn't track him at all. I think he obviously expects Udogie to run with him, but he doesn't. And then that was a bit like, oh, well, why didn't you keep kind of going? And then he does similar with the Wood post chance where he starts a run, gets to the edge of the area, and then just kind of meanders about inside the box rather than really going in and getting close to any player. And that's one thing I think we've said this about Basuma. Just the tracking back sometimes isn't quite there. And Ange had seen enough, brought on calm heads, experienced heads, and the game completely changed the second half. Spurs could have gone on to win that even more kind of handsomely.
Yeah, very much so. I think we've seen it so many times this season, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg coming on in games and just being, a key figure in the middle of the park, helps Spurs certainly regain control.
Question for you quickly, just a very quick question. Who's been more of a super sub this season, him or Johnson?
Probably a tricky one, that.
It is, isn't it? I was just thinking.
Yeah. Probably Højbjerg, maybe.
I think so as well. I think Johnson's had a couple of big sub appearances, but Højbjerg quite consistently has done it this season.
Yes, I think when you're looking towards the start of the season, the Manchester United game, the Liverpool ones, they spring to mind, especially the Luton one as well, when Spurs were, a man down after Basuma's red card and, looking like they might not get a win at Kenilworth Road, but Højbjerg certainly helped steady the ship, and I think that's what he did yesterday against Nottingham Forest. And I know there's a lot of talk about his future at the moment, and let's be honest, he probably will leave Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the summer because he's going to want to play regular first team football elsewhere. And I think if he does go, Ange Postecoglou and Spurs will certainly miss having a player of that quality, someone with, that nous and that experience of helping see a game out and turning something in Tottenham's favour. If he does go, and I think he certainly played his way into the starting 11 for me away at Newcastle on Saturday lunchtime, and I think the same goes for Rodrigo Bentancur, who, whereas Højbjerg's mainly spent the season on the substitutes bench, I think it's only 6 Premier League starts. Bentancur, since he's come back from injury, has been in and out of the team. I thought he did okay against West Ham 5 days earlier, but I think it was always a case of Sarr was going to come back in against Forest. But I thought Bentancur, with his effort and desire in the middle of the park, I thought he put himself about really, really well, and gave a glimpse of the player he is, because we've not really seen that since he's had those 2 injuries. And I think we've said before, it's probably always going to be next season when you see the best of him. But
did he mean his assist?
Yeah, he meant that.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
You think he headed it across? He wasn't trying to head a goal?
No, to be honest, if that's an effort on goal, that's a terrible effort, because the ball ends up about 5 yards behind him.
I think he was trying to. I think if you're going to be the benefit of that, I think he was maybe trying to put it into the danger area, but I think he was trying to get it towards goal, personally.
Right. I don't think it was an attempt on goal, personally. Yeah. I think he knew what he was doing. I'll give him credit for that. And, really good header in the end, because it landed perfectly to Pedro Porro. So
a good position to get into. That's what we want to see more of from him as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that from him a few times this season. The Manchester United game away at Old Trafford, where when he scored, that was similar, getting into really good positions in the box. And I think all Tottenham fans and Ange Postecoglou just want to see Bentancur get back to those previous levels before that ACL injury suffered at Leicester about 14 months ago, and that's going to come with time. He's got 7 games left to make an impression in the remainder of the season, just finish the campaign on the positive, and I think it'll be a bigger season for him next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's we love a cliche, don't we, in football and podcasts and everything. But if he can start to find his groove and start to find that sharpness now, finally, it is like a new signing. It's like an April signing in a way. If he now plays a little run of games and starts to show those kind of game-changing attacking runs that he did last season, when it was essentially him and Kane, were bailing Spurs out of games last season. Yeah, he could well be. And the same with Højbjerg, I think, trying to prove a point, not only to Spurs, but I guess to any prospective kind of buyers in the summer window that are likely to come in for him. So, I'm a big game player. And he played against Newcastle, didn't he, at St James's Park in the debacle he would have done. I'm trying to think. He wasn't out, was
he? I think he started. I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously he was playing in front of the worst back line you could have really put together. But yeah, I mean, he's going to want to go there and change things completely. So, yeah, I don't think Bentancur wouldn't have, would he? That would have been after the injury. But yeah, it's I think they came on and both did really well. Højbjerg kind of set the tone with he had a deflected shot from distance that the keeper did really well actually to kind of scramble across and save. And I just think from that point on, and he played a lovely crossfield ball out to the left-hand side as well. He just came on and both of them just brought an extra level of quality, as Postecoglou likes to call them, Pierre and Roddy. It's like some kind of double act. Yeah, and as he said himself, Postecoglou, it shows the strength of the squad at this moment in time when there's so many players are back, that he can bring on two top Premier League players who were both starting every single match pretty much for Spurs before a certain point last season. And, they can change the game for them. And, yeah, they did get there in the end. I don't like these little periods they have in matches where they lose control. That is very much is when you see it's a team in progress. And I do think teams with a better kind of attacking ability are going to punish them in those moments, as we have seen them do a couple of times this season. But hey, overall, they're on the same amount of points now as they were at the end of last season, 60 points, and they've still got 7 games to go. So they can really make it a far better season than last season. And yeah, I think being fourth at this stage puts the pressure on Villa. Villa obviously got their European games coming up. They got Arsenal at the weekend, I think, as well.
They've got Arsenal away on Sunday. So that's a big game for both clubs, especially off the back of European, games when both looking to either win the Champions League or the Conference League. So all Spurs can do is just, win the games, pick as many points up as possible and see where that leaves them come the end of the season. But I think Villa have Liverpool at home to come. Spurs have the top 3. So, yeah, there's going to be still a number of twists and turns, I think, in what remains of the season.
Absolutely. And the week from hell coming up for Spurs as well, which we will talk about later, which is just going to be ridiculous. But, yeah, I just think it's disappointing. The main disappointment for me was the lack of a clean sheet again. There's just not been enough of those this season. I think part of that is the tinkering in the midfield and balance not quite being right. I mean, you've written about that today. It's just not. It's not quite clicking going forward. The midfield. Postecoglou said it needs more goals. That's where he expects more goals from. And it's also they're probably not protecting the defence enough, are they?
No, I don't think they are. I think you could see the issues there towards the end of the first half when, Forest started getting control in the midfield. I think it was Ryan Yates and Danilo up against Sarr and Bissouma. And it just doesn't seem to have worked for them. Spurs in the midfield combination of late. And Sarr, Maddison and Bissouma were such, a good trio in the opening weeks of the campaign. They were unplayable. They were, really put Spurs on the way when they were topping the Premier League table, and things just haven't worked out for them since. I think Bissouma's been off his game since probably October, November. I think that was always going to be the case with, was it 3 or 4 different suspensions he's picked up? He's had time away at AFCON as well. Maddison's form's dipped massively since his injury. I think he was better in the second half against Nottingham Forest, but still nowhere near the levels he should be producing. And I think it's probably just a case of trying to play his way back into form at the moment. And he needs to, hit his stride sooner rather than later, especially with Newcastle, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool coming up over the coming weeks. And for Pat Matasar as well, I think his form has been up and down recently, and you can see that in terms of it has been coming off in games when Bentancur's come on. He was on the bench one against West Ham the other day, but you've got to remember with Sarr, 21-year-old.
Absolutely.
His form is going to, fluctuate from time to time. And yeah, I think it's just about trying to get this right midfield combination. And I think going on Højbjerg's performance, someone who is, decent defensively, will give the back four a bit of a shield. I think I would be starting him at Newcastle. And Bissouma, I mean, I was looking at his stats for this season, and I think it's 23 Premier League appearances, started in 22 of them. The only time he was on the bench was, I think it was the Brighton game straight after AFCON on his return.
Yes.
So, I mean, he has pretty much been an undroppable for Spurs this season, but going on his performance, how well Højbjerg's done, for me, Højbjerg starts, Bissouma goes down to the bench for this one, and hopefully that will make things a bit more, stronger in the midfield, because it's going to be a tricky game at St James's Park on Saturday. Hopefully not a repeat of what happened 12 months ago, let's be honest.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. And, if Spurs want to be finishing in the top four, they need to start keeping those clean sheets, because it is giving them a bit of a mountain to climb in games, because there's going to be times where things don't work for them in the final third, and they might only score the one goal. And I think they are going to need to start keeping these clean sheets just to make life a little bit easier for them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've spoken before about Spurs, are looking to see if they can upgrade their number 6 position in the summer. Obviously, Højbjerg looks like he will be heading off because it's the final year of his contract. And, if you could find a combo, someone that is like a blend of Bissouma and Højbjerg, you would have like a dominating number 6. You really would, because you can see Postecoglou really likes the way Bissouma is on the ball, his ease in tight positions with the ball. He can spin away, he can pass the ball. But he also, I think, really likes Højbjerg's kind of leadership tendencies, his tenacity. He's a bit of a general midfield kind of warrior out there. And he will chase back until, the 100th minute if he starts the game. He will be constantly trying to do that. And if you could kind of like meld the two of them together somehow, I was trying to think of a mixture of their names. Bisberg doesn't really work, does it? There would just be you would find like one of the best Premier League midfielders out there, and it'd be interesting to see what they do in that position, because I do think Bissouma has played himself out of being, the main choice next season, unless he really has a kind of a reawakening in the summer. And Højbjerg going, that's a leader. I'm intrigued if they can find another leader in the transfer market. He likes those kind of players. I don't think it's any coincidence that a lot of the players brought in last summer, and actually in January, because Dragusin's worn the armband as well, hasn't he? I think at times in his most recent career. I know he's only young, but I swear he has.
Yeah, I think maybe for Genoa, but I think he did for Romania, coming through the system for the younger teams. Might not have done for the senior side yet, but yeah, that's another leader.
Yeah, and I mean, Van der Ven has Vicario is a leader, if not with the armband. He is a proper leader back there as well. Maddison's worn the armband on occasions before in the past as well. And he likes those kind of ones. And if he can bring in another one right slap bang in the centre of the team, I think that could be a real key element going forward next season and going back as well. So yeah, we'll see. It's one of those areas of the pitch that I still think he's not happy with the balance of at all yet.
No. What did you make of James Maddison's performance then yesterday?
It was okay. He spoke after the game, actually. He spoke about his own kind of form, and he admits he's not where he was, but he does feel that he's getting there. He kind of feels he's almost back to his levels. I think obviously he was heavily involved in the third goal. Really good battling work down the left-hand side. Got it to Bentancur, obviously, who, in your words, meant to head it across to Porro because he knew he was steaming in. And yeah, I thought he did okay. I kind of felt like with the West Ham game that a lot of his better work came too deep to really influence Spurs play. Some lovely turns, making space and things like that. And I felt against Forest, maybe he was a little bit more pushed up. He was in those more advanced areas where he could really hurt them. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but I think I gave him, I can't remember if I gave 6 or a 7.
7, I think,
I think
maybe.
I gave him a 7, yeah. So he's definitely, I think, on the trail back to where he was. It's just a case of, yeah, it's just game time, isn't it? This is this ridiculous schedule at the moment, is that, you know, you'll get a game next weekend, you'll feel like you're in a rhythm of games. He's had 2, or well, technically 3 in a week or so, last one, and then they've got this stupid 15 days off again where he's going to go out of sharpness again. And Spurs could do a lot worse. And I know it's not completely replicating a proper match, but getting a friendly booked in for that weekend for them, I mean, just behind the scenes kind of thing. I think those players need to be playing 11 aside against each other, not just against each other. But yeah, no, he's doing okay. He's still contributing, but like you say, he's the kind of player in those big games coming up against the top sides. You need him to just go a level up, and hopefully he will.
Yeah, it is really a case of you want your big players to be stepping up over the coming weeks because Champions League football is on the line. As I said, I think he was better in the second half, but I don't think he's influencing games as much as he can at the moment. And that's probably he's going to come with time if he thinks he's, on the right tracks and at least he's trying to get there. Maybe it is just a case of if he can have a really good showing against Newcastle, that'll just boost his confidence. And then it'll be the case going into what will be the Arsenal game after Newcastle. But yeah, I mean, could you even say, is he lucky to be in the team at the minute, given his form? I know there's Dane Kulusevski and maybe Giovanni Lo Celso who can play in that role. But I suppose when you've got a player of Maddison's quality, surely you're going to start him, even if his performances have dipped a bit. Really,
that would be a tough shout to take him out. I think Lo Celso has probably made the better argument in recent weeks, but even that's only been in little cameo appearances. I wouldn't say it's been the most kind of obvious kind of pushing himself forward for stuff. Yeah, Decky, and we'll maybe talk about him a little bit later, didn't think he was a particularly good cameo yesterday when he came on either. So yeah, I probably would be sticking with Maddison right now, purely because, as we said, really, even when he's not playing at his top, he can still come out with an assist or just something. And his numbers across the whole season, I don't think will be that bad when he finishes it at all. I think he's weighed in with a fair enough amount of contributions. But yeah, and also we're kind of saying he needs game time to get to where he needs to, and then we can't then, I suppose, say he needs to come out for someone else because it's going to ruin the point of that. But yeah, I think he'll come good just when they need him to, hopefully.
Yeah, if only it wasn't for that injury, because he was playing so well.
I wonder whether that's causing any little after effects, because, we heard a couple of weeks ago, I was told that he was, having a few ankle issues in training and he wasn't particularly maybe training as freely as he normally would. And he maybe had that reputation at Leicester, didn't he? He was often playing with a lot of little issues and problems that would eventually have to get sorted out. To be fair, he gets kicked a lot. He's one of those players that's got to be up there with the most fouled in the Premier League. He surely must, because... And that has a knock-on effect, especially around your ankles. And I do wonder whether they play their part as the season goes on. So maybe he starts every season like a bit of a rocket, and then as he keeps getting kicked, perhaps that's why his contribution maybe slightly peters out. I don't know, but I guess that's something Postecoglou's got to find a way around and be able to alternate him in games with people like Lo Celso.
One of the big talking points after the game yesterday was the incident involving Maddison and Ryan Yates in the Nottingham Forest area, where it looks like he's taking a bit of a dig into his stomach. I think Nuno said after the game he probably should have been sent off. In the end, he wasn't. I think VAR checked it and cleared it, but it's a dangerous game to be playing, especially in this day and age when there's so many cameras. You got VAR as well, because I mean, even if VAR had a look at it and said, "Well, referee, go to the screen and have a look at it," given the footage we've seen, he could have quite easily been sent off there.
Yes, I'd agree. It was a really daft thing to do. I think it would have been one of those, we were discussing this afterwards in the press kind of area, that to lose him for 3.5 games for that would have been,
Yeah.
it would have seemed really harsh because it was such a kind of minimal contact, but it was still just the fact that he did it was so silly, and then allowed himself to get wound up. Because Yates, a little bit of a pass, isn't it? In the first game against Spurs, he was doing a few things that were winding up the players. I feel like I remember writing that he should have been sent off by the time that Basuma kind of steamed in on him, because he'd had a load of kind of yellow card challenges that hadn't been picked up on. And he is, I've seen since that Roy Keane kind of has had a bit of a moan about him, saying that he worked with him and he's a great lad, but my goodness, he goes down like very quickly. Even in training, he would go down quite a lot. And yeah, we've seen that. And I wonder whether a little bit of the kind of the boy that cried wolf for him, maybe, that just the referee of VR wouldn't, that's what he does. He goes down. But yeah, I didn't think it was particularly clever from Maddison, and had it resulted in a sending off, that's one of your vice captains getting themselves sent off in a really silly, unnecessary way, born out of frustration, I guess. Because Yates' whole role, he admitted it after the game, was pretty much to shadow players like Maddison and kind of get in their face and make it difficult for them to be a playmaker. But yeah, you react. I know it's easier to say than it is to actually do it, but those are the kind of things where you have to react with good actions, not frustrated ones. And I agree. I think he was a little bit lucky that VAR kind of just dismissed it quite quickly, and purely, I think it was the referee just called them over for a chat. It wasn't even a yellow card. Nuno was not happy. Nuno, who we know from the past, would never comment on anything pretty much, even like the most amazing things. Even he yesterday said, and he kept calling him Simon, the referee, which I thought was very informal. He was like, I've actually seen it back, so I can say that, Simon should have been told by the VAR to go and look at it properly. But it kind of sits right in the middle for me, that it wasn't too much of something, but easily could have been, the way the game goes this right now with the VAR.
Yep. Right. Before we discuss Timo Werner's impact, we'll, of course, let you know about the benefits of using NordVPN. Ali, take us away.
Yeah, well, we're at that kind of point in the year where people maybe start kind of thinking about their summer holidays or heading off, and you and I get a kind of a flood of emails or messages from people saying that they've used NordVPN and they've listened to this, and my constant talking about how NordVPN has helped me out, and we get people using it, and we get the benefit of hearing back that it's worked for them as well, which is great, because it is a product that we've got a really good relationship with Nord now, as we have over the last couple of years or so, since they've been our podcast partner, sponsor, whatever you want to call it, really. And it helps when you're talking about something that actually you've used and is a really good product. It does, you've heard me say these words so many times, and I say it because it's true. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world. No buffering, no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without your bandwidth throttling. The amount of times I've watched my favorite shows that I feared that I would not be able to watch on the travels, when I'm going on a holiday. Not saying my holiday is that boring that I need to watch TV, but you have those little moments when you're waiting for something, or you're waiting to get a train or something to go somewhere, and it can be very helpful to access everything you normally would at home just by setting your device to thinking it's elsewhere. And also, you can set your device to thinking it's in other parts of the country, not just your homeland. And that means that not only is the outlay on a NordVPN subscription cheaper for you in the it is cheaper for you in the long run, and that's because you can book streaming services or bookings from other countries at much cheaper rates. So, for example, I've said this to you before. If you want to book one of your many holidays that you have, Guesty, you can look at the flights, booking them from your destination country rather than booking them from the UK, because it might end up being cheaper, and you can do so by using NordVPN's ability to switch your device to thinking it's in a different country. So you are paying out for Nord, but you're actually saving money overall. And there's a whole host of other benefits, like added security for your device when you use it public Wi-Fi and things like that. And you get all of that by signing up to NordVPN. So why not give it a go? To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goldguest. That gives you a special discount as part of the podcast, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and you'll help support our podcast every single time you kind of subscribe to Nord using our link. And if you didn't get that link, it's in the episode description box.
Let's discuss Timo Werner now then, because he once again was, instrumental to Tottenham's win over Nottingham Forest. I think it was 5 days earlier. Got an assist to his name at West Ham for Brennan Johnson's goal, and unfortunately he's not going to have an assist for his name for Murillo's own goal because it was a known goal. But
don't get me started.
Yeah, it's wrong, because there was another one end of January against Brentford when Destiny Doggy scored.
Yeah.
Werner played it to a doggy. I think a doggy had an effort, came back to him, then he scored. But that doesn't go down as a Werner assist either.
I can understand that. I can just about understand it. It's a different phase of play.
But I mean, he's still had a big role to play. Even if he doesn't have the assist, he's got a big role to play. I think it's 2 goals, 3 assists to his name now. Assists probably should be a bit higher considering the Murillo one yesterday. And I think he's just more than making his case for this permanent move to Tottenham. 15.5 million clause in that agreement with RB Leipzig. And let's be honest, Leipzig might be kicking themselves for agreeing for this to be 15.5 million, because surely in today's market he's already worth more than 15.5 million, and it just seems an easy decision for Spurs to make come the summer.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you set these kind of pre-agreed prices, isn't it? When they're at their lowest ebb almost.
Yeah.
Because, that if you can get a good half a season or a season out of a lone player, then suddenly it's the bargain of the century. And I really like Timo Werner. I do. I must admit, there's something about him that I've really taken to. I think his whole demeanor, the way he acts, his interviews, he's got this very honest, maybe German style about him, perhaps. Just the way he's got a very dry sense of humor. I've kind of been speaking to a lot of people within the club about him, whether that's, his teammates, coaching staff, people just in various departments. And they all say the same thing, just what a really lovely, down-to-earth guy he is. There's no ego there. There's not a guy that, he's a Champions League winner. He was quite instrumental in Chelsea winning the Champions League as well. And he's had, despite whatever people will say about his first spell in the Premier League, which still brought with it 44 goal involvements in 89 matches. It was not as bad as people paint it out to be overall. But, he could be a guy that could be kind of ruined by that, I think, experience. But he's not. He's just a really lovely, friendly, happy guy behind the scenes. And most importantly, I guess, as a footballer, I think he's having such a big impact in this loan spell. We talk about the goals and assists. We talk about he should have got an assist for an own goal. But also, I'd love to know the pre-assists, how many he's got. That's something that maybe we need to find out, because, you even think back to the previous weekend when he gets the ball across to Brennan Johnson, knocks it back to Sonny. That was Werner, wasn't it? Doing that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think there's been quite a few moments like that where he's been the guy that has played the pre-assist. And he just fits Postecoglou's system so well. He's got that ability to either drive down the left. He knows he can beat his man. He's got that confidence again now. You can see that if he puts his foot down, he's got that little burst of acceleration, and he pretty much always gets himself that little bit of space to cut the ball back. He could have had I say another assist. He should have had an assist for the own goal, but he could have got another one had Johnson been able to get it past the keeper. Not long after. I do wonder how the match would have gone if they got that second goal, Spurs, whether that really would have shut it out early on. You would have thought it would. But no, he's very good at that, and he's kind of getting better as well. I mean, he used to be quite the goal scorer for Leipzig, so I think he is also, like Johnson, quite good at getting on the other end if the other wingers got the ball, and then they're going to put it into the box. But yeah, he's just he's doing really well. He will have the odd spectacular miss. He will have the odd clumsy final ball that goes into the back of the south stand. That will come. But I think if you kind of look around everything, I think his contribution is so high. He likes to stay really high up the pitch, which I think keeps the opposition fullback really busy. He will track back, though. There are times when he'll race back and try to get involved in the defensive side of things. But you could just tell Postecoglou likes him. Postecoglou has been very non-committal about his future. He keeps saying, "Oh no, we'll put it off to the summer. You know, there'll be no decisions made yet." And I think partly that's to keep Werner on his toes, keep him at this high level, trying to kind of earn his contract. Because Werner's loving it at Spurs. You can tell. Just the way he speaks about life at Spurs, it's like he's found his happy place. It's like, even though he was in London before, he's found his actual home in London, and a place where, I think he's really I think the fans have really taken to him as well. There was an ovation when he came off and Maddison, and I got the impression, I could be wrong, but I got the impression because Werner was the first name called, I think the standing ovation was mostly for Werner for his efforts in the game. And I might be wrong, but didn't the Chelsea fans quite take to him as well, despite the kind of the issues he had? I think he was quite popular, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think he was just really well liked. He just had a number of high-profile misses during his time at Chelsea, what unfortunately dominated the headlines. But I don't think you can fault his, attitude, what he, gives the team on the pitch with his energy and that. And you'd probably just like him to score a few more goals, but you just can't fault his contribution at all.
No, and I think maybe at Chelsea he would occasionally be asked to play a bit more centrally. They'd put him into the middle, whereas at Spurs, he's got, I don't want to say a simple role, because no role in the Postecoglou system is simple, but he kind of knows that the key aspect of his role is bang, get down the left-hand side, pull the ball across, and he can do that 100 times a day. He's absolutely comfortable in doing that, and yeah, he's just a guy that's very happy where he is, very happy with his teammates. They've been very welcoming to him as well. I mean, there was a lovely moment when he saw Mickey van der Ven coming for his Spurs interview as he was finishing off his, and he actually swore. It's the first time I've ever seen the beep have to be used in a Spurs club interview, just because he said, like, I beeping love him. And then he was talking about how, I've been doing loads of interviews with him today, all because, he scored a goal when we got to celebrate that one goal kind of thing. It was really funny just how honest it was. And there was a lovely moment where he and Vicario, I think we saw in an interview a couple of weeks back, said like Van der Ven's probably his closest mate in the squad. And there was a moment when Werner and Vicario realised that the entire South Stand was starting to sing Mickey van der Ven's chant to him while he was on his own in front of it, and they started to dance arm in arm to the song. It's just this really lovely kind of atmosphere at the moment. And when you've got players like Werner and a lot of the other people we've mentioned who are really good characters, and they're all there for each other, I just think it is a no-brainer, the Werner decision in the summer. £15 million. You could easily spend double that on a left winger who would be far more of a risk. Werner is 28 years old, very experienced. Like we say, Champions League regular, Premier League regular. Anyone you're going to bring in for much bigger money, I think is going to be a big risk from day on, however exciting they may be. Whereas with Werner, even as a squad option for that amount of money, I think is a terrific signing. But I actually think the way he's playing right now, he's near undroppable right now because he's offering so much to the team in every match.
Yeah, I don't think 15 million gets you much in the transfer market nowadays when you look at the prices. I just think it's...
Who would it get you? Maybe a Vicario, close. What was he, about 17?
Yeah, but I mean, what's he worth now, though?
Oh, yeah. It's more unexpected gems, isn't it, in the market?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your doggies and SARs of this world, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his low move has been an undoubted success so far. It's been a
Best low
really,
move
really good.
Spurs have made, or short-term loan move.
Danjuma better than him.
I knew you were going to say Danjuma. I knew it. I genuinely was trying to think yesterday, and I think if you just say short term, there's been the odd season-long loan where they've done quite well, but I couldn't think of many that have had quite the impact he's had.
I think if you look at the January dealings in the past few years, the undoubted successes have been Porro, Kulusevski, Bentancur, the ones you don't want to talk about, Danjuma, Gedson Fernandez. I'm struggling to think of just short-term loan deals other than those two.
Because it's not something Spurs do much, is it?
No.
They don't really like those. So I wonder if this will convince them to do more of that, like in January, to kind of go for these shorter loan deals with a permanent option in the summer because it's been so successful.
Yeah, I know there's probably a lot of fans questioning why you're going for Werner in January, because I think a lot probably just remember his time at Chelsea, let's be honest, wasn't that much of a success, especially coming off the back of being prolific for RB Leipzig, and you're thinking he's just going to be in amongst the goals consistently, and that just wasn't the case. But he was always someone who had all the attributes to be, the perfect Ange Postecoglou Tottenham player, and that's what we're seeing now. I mean, look in the January market. How often do you get a player of that experience, who knows where the back of the net is, who can assist? How often do players of that quality come up on loan? It's just a no-brainer for Tottenham, and it's a no-brainer to sign him permanently for me. And fans can't say that, Werner's move hasn't been, a success, because it has. It really has. And, Chelsea may not have seen, the real Timo Werner, but I think there's a chance Tottenham will if he becomes a permanent player for the club.
Yeah, sometimes you just need the right manager. That's all it can be. Just someone that fits you better. And that's pretty much what he said after the game. Just sometimes you're just not right at the right place at the right time, and that can be on the pitch and it can be off the pitch. And it just feels like right now, it's all going really well for him. And it'd be lovely if they make the move permanent, because I just think you're not going to get a better deal than that. I really don't think you are.
No, it's an easy decision for the club to make, and let's be honest, they might have already made a decision behind the scenes. We're signing him permanently in the summer.
Yeah.
Right. We'll move on to Destiny Doggy now, because I don't think he had the best of games yesterday, and I think that was quite clear to see from Forest's first goal when Chris Wood scored. Anthony Elanga and Nico Williams just had too much space down Forest's right flank, and then for whatever reason, Doggy, rather than tracking Elanga's run, went to follow Van der Ven, and it was just a bit all too easy for Forest at that time, and Chris Wood sweeping at home. And, Forest did go close. We've not mentioned this so far. Through Murillo in the first half, in like the opening 10 minutes, for that effort from about 70, 80 yards.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Incredible effort on goal. And just having watched it, it looked like it was dropping in, because Vicario was nowhere. He was scrambling back, and a couple of yards wide of the post in the end. But that would have been some finish, that, to have, spot the keeper off his line from good 70 yards or so. Yeah, very close.
I did completely forget about that. I don't know how it went out of my head. I remember at the time just thinking, like, wow, like, how has he tried that from there? To have the power to do that as well. It was almost like a it wasn't far of being a goal kick. It was that's a fib. It was about halfway between the kind of the centre circle and the Forest box. But that was a terrific effort. But a Doggy, as we said with Sarr, a 21-year-old, you're going to have inconsistent performances, and I felt first half especially, he just had some iffy moments, and it's about decision making. I mean, first off, to kind of leave the space he did in behind him, which meant Van der Ven came across to cover. But then naturally, surely, if you can see your centre-back is covering you, you have to cover the space that he's left. And he just lets Elanga run forward without any attempt to kind of track him. And then he almost gives up as well. He does a half-hearted run, then gives up, and you think, oh, why are you not in the box kind of thing. I actually felt quite sorry for Romero. Romero came across and went in for like a sliding block to try and stop the cross. On any other day, I think he just about gets enough on that. Maybe it goes to Vicario or it comes back. It gives him more time. But on that day, it just like squirmed under him, went straight into Wood's path to clip it into the net. But yeah, a doggy's going to have days like that. I think this is pretty much what Postecoglou said about him. It is decision making, because it's the other end of the pitch as well. Sometimes he'll get into these really good areas and just the final ball won't know what to do with it. I still think he hasn't quite clicked with Werner yet. There's moments when the two of them, I don't know if it's not he doesn't trust Werner, but it's like it just doesn't sometimes pass him in certain scenarios. Maybe looks for a pass inside when Werner is actually the best pass. But that'll come. That'll come. Same with the other way around. Werner spotting a doggy running past him into the box. As a prototype for the Postecoglou fullback, he's got all of the tools for it. He'll be absolutely perfect. Just got to learn. It's just experience. We've seen it with some games this season when the Arsenal one's a great example at the Emirates when, the first 20 minutes he had a bit of a nightmare and then he learned from it and really dealt with Saka well for the rest of the game. And he's going to have more days like that. But, I guess it's a case, we've said this before, about getting a kind of a similar mould of a player to be his backup, I suppose, for next season. Ben Davies probably isn't quite that. He's a very different kind of player. And perhaps the same on the right as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just going to bring that point up. I think Ben Davies and Emerson, who we've seen play on the left this season, decent squad players for Tottenham, done really well when they've filled in at times, but they're not someone who's gone to, really push Destiny Udogie for his place in the team. And I think that's what Tottenham need in the summer, just to keep the player on his toes as well, and hopefully, get those levels back up, because he was outstanding. He's been outstanding for a lot of the season. I think yesterday was probably just a bit of an off day, as you said.
Absolutely.
A bit iffy defensively, but you just know what he can bring to the team. And it was a lot better in the second half, getting forward as well and trying to make an impact. We're actually speaking earlier, this was before the podcast, about, a doggy, and you mentioned Spurs do have a good left back already in the squad in Mickey van der Ven. He could be someone who could fill in there, although you probably wouldn't want to take him out of his position because he's just playing so well. But he does have all the qualities, to take on that role.
Yeah, I kind of made the point in my talking points. It reminds me very much of what we used to say about Jan Vertonghen, that even with Danny Rose in the team, I always felt that Jan Vertonghen was probably Spurs' best centre-back and also the best left-back. And I do wonder whether Van der Ven is a bit of a similar mould, that he actually, because he's got the ability with the ball at his feet, he can drive forward, he's got the pace, he's very good at 1v1s as well. Whether actually as a left-back he could be excellent, and whether there might be the odd game when Postecoglou thinks, maybe I'll put Dragishin into the centre-back position and let Mickey van der Ven come out to left. It's difficult because, let's be honest, with Mickey van der Ven, you've got that ability then to mop up behind the high line as a centre-back, whereas as a left-back, you're probably going to lose him up the pitch a little bit more often than not. But yeah, Mickey van der Ven is a tremendous player. I even had someone on one of the social media platforms earlier today suggest that maybe he could play the Werner role, and it was like, well, that's one possible role. I would say that you'd probably want to keep him in the defence, but he's phenomenal. Honestly, he could be one of the best defenders on the planet. If you think about it, he's 22 years old. I asked Ange after the game, he'd spoken in the week about players having no ceiling. I said, how good do you think Mickey van der Ven can become? And he said, genuinely, I don't know. He said, I don't know, because we're not going to put any restrictions on him. He wouldn't want us to put any limits on what he's doing either. And he said, just the way he trains every single day, he is one of these guys that is like desperate to just improve himself constantly. I think the only probably biggest opponent he'll have in life is those hamstrings, and whether he can steer clear of any more issues with them. And that comes with fast players. But yeah, I mean, to contribute at the other end as well. Maddison called him a special player, and he also said, he doesn't score goals like that in training much. They normally fly everywhere but the goal. And he even admitted himself that if that had come to his right, he was stuffed, really. It was all right, it came to his left. Again, I should point out, short corner routine. That's another set piece for the Ryan Mason collection. I've seen people talking about Gianni Vio. We miss him so much. Spurs are now up to 11 goals from set pieces. They're only 5 off the Vio total from last season with 7 games to go. So I wouldn't be shocked if they match it. It was a very clever kind of set piece routine, actually. It was Porro and Johnson combining near the corner flag. Johnson cuts inside, picks out Sonny in the edge of the box. And yeah, Van de Ven had kind of realised exactly what kind of set piece they were going for, and he drifted back, finds himself on the edge of the box, and actually Sonny's flick out to him is very clever. It's very kind of almost like a no-look flick. He just catches it so perfectly. And what was lovely for him as well is that the Van de Vens were in town. His family were up there in the southwest corner of the stadium. So not only was he roaring his delight kind of towards the south stand, he was also looking up at his family up there. What a moment. Your first goal inside that stadium, and you're doing it in front of your family as well. And, his goal against Luton away was a very nice goal as well. He's, for someone who's not known for his goal scoring, he's had a couple of lovely goals. And it was such a key moment in the game, wasn't it? It really, I felt that was it. It was almost like the game was won at that point.
Yeah, I think there was only going to be one winner once that goal went in. And I mean, we were speaking on the pod the other day about, Tottenham players maybe not having a shot on goal when the opportunity comes their way. Yeah. And that was something that was put to Ange in his pre-match press conference on Friday. But yeah, Mickey van der Ven just showed everyone what to do when the ball fell kindly to him. I did, sense a bit of frustration from the fans just a few seconds before, because Brennan Johnson probably could have got a shot away where he was. And the same with Sonny, maybe. But yeah, no complaints with Van der Ven finding the top corner. And he's some player, some fine from Tottenham, to signing from Wolfsburg. And I mean, it was a considerable fee, but he's already worth so much more than that. And to be honest, I don't think there's many better defenders than him in the Premier League. I mean, what's he, 30-odd games into his Spurs career? Yeah, already one of the best in the league for me. Really, really good. And the best thing is he's only going to get even better. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think he most definitely can become one of the best in the world. Just a really, really good find. And, yeah, just nice to see him on the score sheet, and the celebrations were really, really good as well.
Yeah, and Maddison's quote on him was really good. He said he's a special player, he's top level. Credit to the recruitment team, because I'd never heard of him before we signed him. The joke is on me, really, because a player of that caliber I should have probably heard of in Europe. A brilliant player, a brilliant trainer, a brilliant lad, and a really good guy. That is, what a find. And I bet all the other top clubs are absolutely kicking themselves to not bring him in, because, we say about Werner being £15 million a steal. I think, 40 million or so for Mickey van der Ven is one of the bargains of as much of a bargain as 40 million can be in the transfer window last summer, because, brilliant.
Would he be your Spurs player of the season so far?
Ooh, I don't know whether the couple of months he was out allows Vicario to take it for me. Maybe. It's a difficult one. He has been so good, he might have done enough to override those, 2.5 months that he missed. But I do think Vicario has been superb. He deserves so many more clean sheets than he's got. I just feel so sorry for Vicario. His performances have merited so many more of them. And Sonny as well, with his goal record and his assist record. I think he's got something like 24 goal involvements in 28 games. He's going to be up there as well. But yeah, I just love the way Van der Ven and Romero have got this really lovely partnership that is built entirely on contrast. They are so different as players, but just Romero just loves Van de Ven. You can see there was like when he scored his goal as well, he like runs towards Van de Ven, who does a lovely little kind of feint and goes around him as they often do when they do these things. And Romero kind of runs after him, launches himself onto his back. And we've said it before. If you've got Romero's affection, you're set for life essentially, because he will have your back until the end of time. And it's just, it's a central defensive partnership with the likes of Dragic in there as well to come in. That Spurs can be so strong in that area if they get everything else right around it.
For me, I just can't see where Dragic gets a game when Romero and Van de Ven are playing so well. Obviously, next season, fingers crossed, Spurs will be in Europe. There will be opportunities there, but for that partnership, you just wouldn't break it up for me.
No, but it is. I think that's maybe we're falling into the trap that we always have with Spurs, is having this very set 11.
Yeah.
And like you say, there's going to be so many games hopefully next season. And if you want to be a title contender, the title contenders don't just have like two centre backs that they rely on. They have others that come in and out, and there's going to be injuries. And actually, talking about title stuff, that's been a thing I've been really quite pleased with this week, is that, look, we know Postecoglou in the top four thing and how it's a wasted question unless you just want to kind of have him laugh at you and have a joke at what you're saying. And it did happen again after the game yesterday. I love the fact that not only is he so disappointed at where Spurs are in the table, but so are the players. Like Maddison was talking about it after the game, and he is genuinely really kind of annoyed and frustrated that Spurs are in fourth. And I love that. I love the fact that if you'd have offered us, by the way, you're going to lose Kane this season. You're going to completely change your manager, completely different style that's got to be implemented, real rebuilding season. We'll give you fourth place. You'd have gone, oh, yes, please. That would be amazing. And yet they're really unhappy about it. That Postecoglou really feels like they should be way above where they are. I mean, you look at it, it's 11 points. You can play the what-if game, can't you? And you could say, they hadn't let in those late goals at Wolves, things like that, silly little things like that. But then I always feel you can counter that with, but what if they didn't score that late goal at that game or things like that? But there's definitely areas where you can see that had they just tightened up a little bit more, they would be right up there. And I'm not saying that, they've got the squad yet, I don't think, to properly maintain the title challenge. But they could have been a bit closer than they are right now. And Postecoglou, every season he begins, he goes into it feeling his team is going to win the title. That's his aim. That's what he wants to aim for. And he had no different this season, despite the circumstances, despite the injury issues they had, and losing, the best goal scorer, the top goal scorer they've had in their history. And he still had no doubts about it. But yeah, I just think maybe circumstances have eventually conspired against him. And but it bodes for a very exciting season next time around. It really does.
It does. I know there's 11 points between Spurs and Arsenal, and the players believe they probably should be in title contention. But when you compare it to last season, if you offered someone in August the chance Spurs will be in the Champions League place with 7 games to go and 11 points off the top of the league, you'd have snatched the hand off, especially with losing Kane. And Spurs are in a good position to move forward, in a good position now for a Champions League place. Don't ask Ange. He said the question about aiming for 4th because he's not going to entertain it. But Tottenham are going places, and fingers crossed it will, end with Champions League football come the start of next season. There was another bit of a talking point, in really, really sad news involving Joe Kinnear, a former Tottenham player who won trophies at the club in the late 60s and 70s. He unfortunately passed away at the age of 77. The news broke during the game. Ange was asked about Joe Kinnear in his post-match press conference, offered some, really, really lovely words. And you got a really nice email as well today about Joe Kinnear.
I did. I'll be honest with you, because I was always aware, kind of, when I was young, that kind of in years past, Joe Kinnear had been quite like an important player for Spurs. I think for me, kind of when I was growing up. I knew him more as a manager, the manager of Wimbledon and things like that. I don't think I appreciated quite what a career he had at Spurs. He was there for 10 years. He won FA Cup. He won the UEFA Cup. He was started in both legs of the final against Wolves in that. He won a couple of League Cups as well. But yeah, we had a lovely email came in from David Matthews, who emails us a lot with his views on Spurs and everything. He's a regular emailer, and he sent in a really nice email that I think I just wanted to read out kind of quickly, because it kind of gives as long as he doesn't mind. I'm hoping he doesn't mind us reading out on air, but it is just so nice. So David said, "So sad to hear about the passing of Joe Kinnear. I was around when he made his debut at the age of 19. He was a really classy fullback, quick and tough in the tackle, but always clean. As you would expect of anyone schooled the Bill Nicholson way, his passing and use of the ball was immaculate. I was lucky enough as a schoolboy to witness Spurs beat Chelsea in the 1967 FA Cup final, and Joe was one of the most outstanding performers that day. When he first broke into the first team, he was one of the only players not to have a driving license, and this made him easy prey for us eager schoolboy autograph hunters as he waited around in the car park after the game, hoping to catch a lift from a teammate. To his credit, he was always the perfect gent on those occasions, as he was often quite literally mobbed by over-exuberant youngsters. I'll always remember him as a true class act, both on and off the pitch." I just thought that was a really lovely email from David, and it kind of summed it up nicely. Because, he had a tough end to his life, Joe Kinnear. He was, I think he was battling with dementia for the last almost a decade. I think it was 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
He'd been, had that since. And yeah, of a real character in the game as well. Obviously, he'd had his medical issues towards the time when he was at Newcastle as well. And yeah, it's just... and at Wimbledon, I think, as well. I think he might have had a heart attack when he was Wimbledon boss as well, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, but as Ange said, Ange had never met him but had heard of him, and he spoke so eloquently of him, despite having only just been told the news, a couple of minutes before, because obviously you're not going to be aware of that in the game. And just, obviously a very sad loss to the game. He was only 77. But left his mark on Tottenham, and I'd imagine, and a lot of other clubs as well, but I'd imagine Tottenham will do something you would have thought for him ahead of the... when is the next time going to be? The Arsenal game?
The Arsenal, yeah. End of the month.
Yeah, so something ahead of that. But yeah, no, very, very sad to... very sad to hear, and one of those real characters in the game, and everyone that's spoken of him speaks very highly of him too, which is always a good measure of the man.
Yeah. One final thing to note before we call it a day on today's podcast, we finally have a new date for the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge. We've been waiting, about 2 months now? For
Don't get too excited, though.
Yeah, it's... Thursday, May the 2nd, 7:30 kickoff in West London. Some will probably ask why it's a Thursday. Well, I think it's Champions League semi-finals on the Tuesday and Wednesday. And let's be honest, UEFA aren't going to want such a game as Chelsea versus Tottenham kicking off at the same time, because then all eyes will, of course, be on that one. So, bit of a nightmare week for Spurs, especially when they're pushing for Champions League football. First up, it's Arsenal. We don't know what day that is yet. It's penciled in for the Sunday, April 28th, with a 2 p.m. kickoff. Could be played the day before at 12:30. This is all dependent on the Champions League schedule, so that'll all become clear in the next fortnight. So then following the trip to Chelsea, it's Liverpool away on Sunday, I think May the 5th, 4:30 kickoff at Anfield. Big week for Spurs.
It is. I asked Ange about it when the news came out about the rearranged fixture, and I just said, it's like one extreme to the other. You've gone from having so many weeks where you haven't had games and you've wanted to play games, and now they've shoved 3 huge games into 7 days. If I'm an Aston Villa fan, I'm thinking, hello, how brilliant for us. You've absolutely stuffed them there. And yeah, he was very much of that's been the whole problem with our season. It's been that we've gone from having so much time off to suddenly having a run of games, suddenly having loads of time off. And it's like the players' legs and muscles, and it's just so difficult for them to get any kind of sharpness and rhythm. I mean, we said it earlier, 15 days off before the Arsenal game, potentially 14, but, it could be 15. And then suddenly you're playing 3 of the biggest games you could play in the Premier League calendar almost within the space of 6-7 days. It's just crazy. He's going to need all of his squad that week. You're going to have to hope that there's some form of tiredness among those other teams as well. Maybe if they do have European games going on as well. I think potentially Liverpool could be playing that Thursday night in Europe if they're still at that point. And as we said, Arsenal maybe. We'll see what a certain Harry Kane has to say about that. And but it's just going to be a crazy, crazy week to chuck in near the end of the season. And, we've still got the Man City game to be chucked in as well, which we presume will be the last week of the season midweek. But, who knows with the way the schedule's working right now. But, a busy end, and it's going to test his squad to the fullest. It really is.
Yep. So it's Newcastle United next up. That's a 12:30 kickoff on Saturday at St James's Park. We'll be back later in the week to discuss that game in the North East. But in the meantime, just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/coldguest. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and you'll help support our podcast. The link is in the episode description box.